In this video, I'll be showing some things about the Linux cat command. It is a very good command to do many things on the system, and the name is derived as we have it from the concatenate files in a function to concatenate files, which means to merge files together, and that is why we have the cat. So in this particular way, the command does many things. For example, because of the need to make your work faster, for example, the first thing it does is it prints specified file to the screen, which means in this particular way it can display the content of a file. Another thing is it can also move a file from one file to the other. That means the content of a file from one to the other. Also, it can append the content of file A to the end of file B. So those are the three main things that the command does. So, but what is the syntax for the cat command? The syntax is something very important. So we have the cat, then the options, then the file name. So those are that is the syntax for this particular command, and these are the different options that you can use in managing the file command, the cat command. So I will now be showing how the cat command works. So this is the server. So this is the terminal. So let me just quickly show the files that I will be working with. So these are the different files that I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to be using all these files to show how the cat command can be used. So the first thing is going to be to display the contents of a file. So when that is to be done, it is going to be like this. For example, I want to display the content of this file, that is file1.txt. So which is going to be cat, then file1.txt. So with this particular command, I can see the content of this file. So you can see that it says file1. So that is the content I put inside file1. So this is what we have in this case. Another way to view this so that you really be sure that the command, the cat command, is really displaying the content of file1.txt. So let me just quickly show you that content with another command, which is this. So you can see that this is the content of file1.txt. So that is it. So that is how to make use of the cat command to show the content of a file. Okay, so another way you can make use of the cat command is to concatenate files and show them in the terminal. So for example, if you have many files, multiple files, you can also use the cat command to display the content of all the files. For example, we have file 1, file 2, and file 3. So let me just quickly show that. There are two ways of doing that. So I'm going to show the first one. So which is cat file1.txt semicolon cat file1.2.txt another semicolon cat file3.txt. So that is it. So when I press enter, you discover that it is showing the content of the file. That means for that I need to use cat, cat, and cat for each file content. But there is a faster way of doing that even with the same cat command. And to do that, I just need to type the cat command once. So that is how to do that. So let me show you how to do that. So which is going to be cat. We have file1.txt, then a space bar, file2.txt, then another space, then file3.txt. So that is a quicker way of doing that. Instead of typing the command for each file one after the other. You can just use one single cat command and bring all the file names together. So that is another way of making use of the cat command. Then another way of doing that is to also concatenate multiple files and create a new file from the concatenated multiple files. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I am going to be working with the same file 1, file 2, and file 3. So only that I am now going to create a new file with a new file with the multiple, concatenating the content of the multiple files. So to do that, I just need to type the same command, file 2, then file 3. So to create a new file, I need to now type the greater than symbol. So that is this. So then the new file in which the content of all the 3 files will be put. So let me just name it. That means new combined file, new combined file.txt. So when I press enter, that means it has been created. To be sure that it has been created, let's look at the content of the new combined file.txt. So which is going to be cat new combined file.txt. Sorry, that is new combine.txt. So that is it. You can see that the content of the file is in this area. You discover that it was saying that no such file or directly because I did not type the correct file name. In this case, it should not have D. So that was why it gave this particular error. So you now have it like this. So that means at every point in time, you need to make sure that the file name is the correct one that you really want to access. So that is another way of doing that. Then let's look at another way of using the cat command. Another way is to display the content of all the text files. For example, all these are the text files I have. So if I want to display the content of all these files, there is a way of doing that. Instead of typing them one after the other, there's a shorter cut there's a shortcut that can be used, and that is this. For example, which is going to be cat. So to display the content of all the docs.txt files, I need to put asterisk .txt. What this means is that I want to show the content of all the files that have the extension of .txt. So when I press enter, so you can see that it has displayed all the content of the files. So that is another way through which I can really show the content of the files with the same extension. So that is one way of doing that. So let me just quickly show you the content of all the files I have under this directory. So these are the files. Now, another way of making use of the cat command is, for example, I have this file, then I have this, my file. So in this case, I want to be specific that I want to display only the docs.txt files starting with the letter F. So to do that, which is going to be cat, I type F, then asterisk dot txt. What this means is that only display the content of all the files starting with letter F and having the extension of .txt. So to do that, I now need to press enter. It will show me the content of those files. So now I can now also change it. For example, these are the files I have that I want to show only the content of the files starting with letter F, which is my file 1, my file 3, my file 2. So I can also do that as well, which is cat. Then I'll now type m, the asterisk dot txt. So with this, it is only showing me the content of the files starting with letter F. So that is another way through which I can manipulate files using the cat command. Then another thing that the cat command can do is that it can be used to create a file. So I can now name the new file, give the new file any name. So to do that, for example, I want to create a new file. So I want to create a new file, for example, file 101.txt. So which is going to be cat file 101.txt. You will notice that there is nothing like file 101.txt among the files I have in this directory. So I want to create that particular file now. And to create the file, I need to have a greater than symbol. So which is what I am putting here. Okay. So that means the file has been created. To be sure that the file has been created, let's now see the list of the contents of the file. In this particular case, you now see that this is the file here, file 101. You discover that here it was not in existence. So with this particular command, I was able to create a new file. So let's now go further. For example, after creating the file, for example, I want to put a content. I want to put content in the new file created. The cat command can also be used to do that. So let's create a file, for example, file 112.txt. So which is going to be cat, the greater than sign, file 112.txt. So after creating the file, I'm going to write something inside the file and save it. So now it has been created. So you now discover that with this symbol that it is asking me to add content into the file. So let me just type something. Is the content of file 112.txt. So after doing that, I just need to press Ctrl D to save the file and exit. So that is it. So in looking at it now, I will be sure that the content I put in that file is there. So let me now look at the content of the file, which is going to be with the same cat command, file 112.txt. You can see that it is now inside as part of the content of the file. So that is how to also make use of the cat command to create a new file and also add something into that particular file. So that is another usefulness of the cat command. So let's see another way through which the cat command can be used. For example, the cat command can also be used to display line numbers in a file. So to do that, I'm going to use the option -n. So for example, let's look at the file 11, file 11.txt, which is this particular one. So I want to have the numbers. For example, let's first of all look at the content of that file. So cat file 11.txt. So this is the content of the file. You discover that it starts from here. So it starts from here and ends here. That means appetite. So this is the beginning of that particular file. So in this particular case, this command can be used when I have a content like this. So I want to have count the number of lines to display the line numbers inside this particular file. So to do that, I'm going to be using the option of -n. So which is going to be cat, the option -n, then the file name, file 11.txt. So you can now see that with this particular command, it has numbered the different lines, including the blank lines and the lines with contents. So you now discover that in this case, it has line 5. So which begins with this paragraph and ends here. So this is a blank line, line 6, line 7. So that is another way through which you can make use of the cat command. For example, with this content, with this file, I know that the file contains 11 lines. So based on what we have here. So let's look at another, there's another function, another good thing about the cat command. Another thing is that it can be used to display line numbers in multiple files and write them to a new file. So that is another thing it can be used to do. In creating a new file, it's going to, you have, it's the content of the multiple files will be in the new file. So let's look at, for example, line file 1 and 2. So to do that, I have cat, which is going to be -n as the option. Then we have file1.txt, then file2.txt. Then I need to create a new file. So which will now be new numbered file.txt. So it has been created. So to be sure it has been created, let's look at the contents of that file. So the same cat command will be used to display the content of the file. So which is cat new numbered file.txt. So that is it. So that means the content of file 1 and file 2, the combination is now in the new created file. So that is another good thing that the cat command can be used to do. So another thing that the cat command can be used to do is it can be used to redirect standard output of a file into a new file. For example, the content of file 1, that is file1.txt. The content of that particular file, this is file 1, can be put, it's just like when you make a copy of another file. So that means it's, in this particular case, it's going to create a new file and the content of file1.txt will be in the new file. So to do that, I have cat. So let's look at file1.txt. Then in this case, I'm going to use one greater than symbol. So this is the sign. So then I now need to create a new file. That means it will be put in file 4, for example, file4.txt. You will notice in this particular case, or let me just use another file. I discovered that file 4 is in existence. So let me just use, for example, file25.txt. So that has been created. So let's now look at the list of the files I have. So if you look at the file, say you now discover that file 25 has been created. So the same content of file 1 is now in file 25. So in this case, for example, let's look at the content of file 25. So which is cat file25.txt. So can you see now? This is the content. For example, file 1, which means this content came from file1.txt. So that is another way through which that can be done. So, but what if, for example, in file there is a file in existence? For example, you want to copy a content from one file to another file that is already having a content, and you don't want to eliminate the content of that file. There is another way to do that. Instead of using a single greater than sign, you are going to use double greater than sign in order to do that. So for example, with the same content, so let's say, for example, from file 2 to the same file 25, but I don't want to eliminate the content of file 25. So that means the double greater than sign will only use the content of the old file and put it in the same file 25.txt. That means it's going to be at the end of that file. For example, we have cat file2.txt. So with this, file25.txt. So with this double sign, what I'm saying is Do not eliminate the content, the existing content in file 25. I only want you to put the content of file 2 at the end of the content in file 25. So let me now have that. So pressing enter, that has been created. So let's now go back to now see the content of file 25.txt. So cat file 25.txt. You now see that it has been created. This is file 1, which is the old content, then this is the new content that came from file 2.txt. That is another usefulness um, of the cat command. There is another thing I want to show about the usefulness of the cat command. In this case, it will be used to concatenate multiple files and use pipe to sort. For example, I have file 1, file 2, and file 3. So I want to create a new file, and the content of those 3 files will be sorted in the new file created. So that is what I'm going to do now. So in this particular case, I'm going to be using a pipe and the sort command to do that. So we have cat file1.txt, then file2.txt, then file3.txt. So with the pipe symbol, it's now going to be combining 2 commands, sort, then create a new file for me. So for example, we have file 6, which is not in existence. So in this case, we now have file 6.txt. Then I now press enter. So pressing enter, that has been created. So to be sure that has been created, let's now look at the content of file 6.txt. So we have cat file 6.txt. So you can now see that the content of that file has been created and everything has been sorted. So you now see that the sort has been carried out. So that is a good thing. Another good thing about the cat command. Then another thing that the cat command can do is that it can also be used to display tab characters. That means use a symbol to display the cat characters. For example, let's look at, for example, file 15.txt. So in this particular case, we have cat. To do that, we are going to be using the -t symbol, which is in uppercase, file 15.txt. And before we do that, let's first of all look at the content of file 15, that's cat file 15.txt. So this is the content. You now see that in this case we have, this is a tab. There are about 3 tabs here, 2 tabs here, tabs here. So these tabs will be replaced in this particular case. So to replace the tabs, which is going to be cat.txt, which is the same file. Then I press enter. You now see that all these ones have now been replaced by the uppercase I symbol. So in this particular case, this is another function of the cat command. So to be able to determine the tab keys in a particular document. Then the cat command can also be used with more and less options. I have some files here with a large content. So for example, let's look at the files. For example, file 9, this particular file contains a lot of content, many pages of content. So in order to do that, you discover that to view everything on the screen, you need to be scrolling and scrolling. So, but you want to be able to view a particular specific lines or pages at a time. So to do that, you can use the cat command with the more or less option. So let's first of all look at the content of the file9.txt. So we have cat file9.txt. You can see that there are many things. It's a large amount of content. So in order to prevent something like this, I can now just be viewing them one after the other, line by line or page by page. So let's first of all look at the more command. So we have cat file9.txt. So which was the command I typed before. But because I want to view the content one at a time, I need to use the pipe command and combine that with, sorry, I need to use pipe and combine that with the more command. So that means with this, it is going to be showing a page at a time, depending on the keys I am making use of. So let me now press enter. You now see. So with this now, it's showing a page at a time. So if I want to view more content, there are some ways of doing that. In this particular case, if I want to be viewing the content line by line, I need to be pressing the enter key. For example, I have pressed enter. You can see that it is showing them line by line. But because if I want to be viewing page by page, I just need to press the space bar. So with the space bar, you can see that it's page by page. So to exit, I just need to type the Q key. So that is how to also use that. Then it also works with the less command. For example, I have cat file9.txt. Yeah, it's still with the same content, but what it does is that it also shows little amount of content, and I just need to be pressing the enter key in order to view the content line by line. And if I press the space bar, it will be showing them page by page. So that is how it works with the cat command. That is another thing about that. So let me just exit this. So those are some of the good functions of the cat command. The cat command can also work with the echo command. For example, it can incorporate standard output into the, I can incorporate the standard input into the cat output. For example, I have a file here. So let me just show you the file. So the file I have here, for example, this file, foodlist.txt. So for example, the file, let's look at the content of that file, which is cat foodlist.txt. So this is the content of the file. It is showing the list of foods, my favorite foods. But one thing about this is that it does not really show that it is my favorite, that the list contains my favorite foods. It is just showing the list of foods. So to be able to specify that, I can use the echo command to determine that. So we now have the echo. Then I now put this, that is my favorite foods. I now combine that with the pipe key, combine that with the cat command, foodlist.txt. So you can now see that it now shows everything. That is my favorite food, then the list of the different types of food. So that is how to make use of the cat command. It has a lot of uses, though there are some other cases in which the use of the cat command may be somehow unnecessary, but you can make use of it in different ways to carry out many things on your server.